topic around data and AI. But at the same point of time, Ganesh is a senior and a very senior hand at Nagarro. So and we are in the process, and we want to be something like a Nagarro over a period of time. So I think it will be a good chance for all of us to understand how to scale from this place and then achieve the heights that let's say large company has. What does it take to be there? And then a lot of people here want to build a similar career, get into a senior technical position, leadership position within technology, be a CTO of a company over a period of time. Many of them have joined fresh and would like to understand where should they go from here.
Thank you for having me here. If you look at the area specifically of AI ML, the machine learning part, maybe this piece, right? But then there is whole lot of basically how you set up pipelines, right? How do you clean data, right? There's a whole complete ops that need to be set up, which is called the ML ops, right? So if you have to become a kind of a seasoned person in future, you just don't have to learn about this small piece, but the complete ecosystem around it. I was sharing with some people that there was a time when they were, the major mode of transportation used to be horses, right? And when Ford rolled out its first model, right, there were around 25 million horses in US. And the population of US was around 90 million. As the number of cars started to increase on the roads, right, the population of horses started to come down. The manual labor of humans, right, if you see, over the period of time has been now, or the animals, has been now replaced by machines. Especially it started with textile industry where there were power looms, right? And then it went on and on and on, right? So we had industrial revolution 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 and 4.0, right? And currently what we are saying is 4.0. So to cut the story short, the physical power of human beings started to get replaced by the machines. Now we are entering into an era where the machines are doing intelligent work. So the transition of the machines, especially the computing machines, right, with respect to their memory, their processing, right, has evolved over the period of time. So the computation, which used to take a long time, right, are happening much more faster, right? So therefore, the problems that required a lot of computation to be done, right, are getting done very fast now. And I was sharing an example that one of the first computer systems which defeated human in the game of chess was a computer system developed by IBM called Deep Blue. And it took almost 10 years for them to, from the start, to reach a stage where they were able to defeat the human beings, right? Then down the line, there came a company called DeepMind. They also tried to solve the same problem. But this time, the situation was different. They created this AI ML based systems. And the name of that system was AlphaZero, right? So to AlphaZero, again similar to basically Deep Blue, they the different game moves and board situations, they gave it to the system and trained it. So whenever the next move was from human was done, it was able to figure out that what is I should do. Then they said, okay, this part is okay. Within they didn't take 10 years, but within few months they were able to hit the human being. Now they tried another experiment. So what was the other experiment? They said, we are not going to feed any game to it. We will just tell it that this is what the game of chess is. These are the rules how it is played, right? How did they train the system now? So how did the system would have learned? Imagine. So they made the system play against itself, right? And from there it learned, right, different moves and how to win with different strategies, right? And within 4 hours of training, right, it was able to defeat the human being. Now imagine 10 years, 4 hours. That is the kind of advancement we have made in terms of compute system in learning something. And this is penetrating in various areas. So they are calling AI as the new electricity because we find electricity everywhere now. In May 2022, Google, in Google I/O conference, Sundar Pichai and team, they demonstrated two technologies, right? The one technology was Lambda, right? Another was Palm. But it says, we are coming up with this technology where through chat, a conversational style of, thing with the bot, it will give you intelligent answers and you can search for different things, right? And that looked like a very revolutionary tech. Now, few months down the line, we see that OpenAI come up with a software called DALI, right? Where you basically give it text prompts and it generates images, right? That is, the first, real life example where people got excited by the, what we call it as generative AI, right? And then few weeks down the line, they come up with Chat GPT, right? And the world was all over excited. Now, how did that happen, right? If you see, there is lot of, fundamentals of natural language processing, right? There is a lot of fundamentals of algorithms which were, like used by Lambda and Palm, which is, if you basically look at the fundamentals, there's a very promising paper called Attention is All You Need, right? Where, this whole system of basically, training the models, how do you parallelize that so that it becomes very fast? Okay. So they come up with that kind of an architecture. And that was, turning point. And the same kind of basically architecture got used at a lot of places. One is that you have to ride the wave. Okay. So, and you prepare yourself. So people who prepared themselves on MS Office, Excel, and Word and all that, they started to getting more jobs, right? And then those who further went on to learn HTML and blah blah, right, and became programmers, they advanced, right? And similarly now, if you have to grow in your careers, right, so you have to start learning, right, about the new technologies. That's how I've been keep on doing, right?
I think a lot of people would have definitely not thought through things the way Ganesh has, and you can see how the dots are being connected. And in fact, today we were having this conversation about dots getting connected.
Yeah.
So the interesting aspect is the data centers are kind of leading to this whole revolution. Can we take that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the whole advancement that we are seeing in AI ML, at the background of it is the data centers, actually huge compute that is needed, right? That you can't have it in this room, right? So there's huge data centers which give you that compute. Nvidia was a company who looked at an opportunity and said, people who are into gaming or who want good graphics, right, for that the processing that is needed, we will focus on that only. So they created these graphic cards, right, and graphic processing units, they called as GPUs. And then AI ML came in, right? And the kind of processing capabilities that the GPUs had, right, they were very suitable for AI ML processing, right? And Nvidia company became a very valuable company, and their chips are selling like anything. What is the current valuation of Nvidia? It crossed $1 trillion, right? Many few companies have crossed $1 trillion. The first one was Apple. And then, of course, Microsoft and I think Google also crossed it, right? Amazon, right? But Nvidia crossed 1 trillion. Okay. And that is the disruption of the AI ML. Now, why I'm talking about this is because in data center, when you kind of, have to do heavy processing, right, of AI ML algorithms, right? So the compute that you have to take, right, the time it will take to process depends on that compute. And the GPU chips, which are there from likes of Nvidia, right, are able to do the things faster. Okay, so that's why their demand is going up. And then you need heavy infrastructure to kind of cool off those chips, right? So when you put many chips in a stack, right, so there's a lot of heat that is generated, there's a lot of power consumption that happens, right? And you can't basically do it on your own, right? So these data centers are designed to do that. But even in data centers, how the things are managed, right? How grid computing works, right? How virtualization works, right? There's a whole lot of research that went on, which kind of basically led to these data centers, and these data centers have revolutionized the whole compute and made it a commodity actually. So if you look at a lot of architectures that are getting built now, so they are cloud native architectures, right? So AWS, you're aware, Azure, you're aware, GCP, you're aware of it, right? Oracle Cloud, IBM Cloud, right? So many. The advancement of data centers is one of the turning points of AI ML becoming mainstream actually.
Now, how do you see data engineering or skills in data engineering? What kind of roadmap do they have? And to that a question, just another sub question is, we've heard about things like Copilot and so many other new LLMs which are helping programmers to really code better and code faster. So how are these things? How do you see these things in terms of relevance? In terms of how would they coexist? And for a developer, how do they really balance these two things?
The concept of basically artificial intelligence, right? So one part is the narrow intelligence, right? Artificial narrow intelligence. Another part is artificial general intelligence. If you look at something like DALI, right, where you are giving it textual inputs, where it is not going and querying in a database and returning something, but it is creating, right, something. So that creation part, which is more human like, which we generally refer to as generative AI also, right? So that is evolving now, right? So there are application areas which are in the category of ANI, and there are applications, right, which are still evolving, which are in the AGI level, right? And it's a long way to go where we say, okay, we have reached a singularity, let's say, right, where the intelligence of the machine is equivalent of human being or it's surpassed, right? So if you look at the programming and the programming tools, they have been evolving, and the level of automation, right, has been evolving with the time. Now we have reached a stage where we say, because of the advancement in the AI, right, that if you want to write a for loop, let's say, or switch case statement, okay, you just have to write a comment, and Copilot or Replit or others, right, it will just generate that code, right? So this is just an evolution that is happening, right, and it will continue to happen. Now, has the role of programming changed? It has changed, right? Why it has changed? That you don't have to get involved into nitty gritty of writing this scaffolding code. It is automated, right? You don't have to think of all the boundary value condition. It will figure it out and code it for you, right? So the level of skill that you require now, number one, is how to smartly use these tools. So they are their assistants to you, right? So they will not be able to replace you, by the way, right? To reach a singularity, there's a long way to go, but it is moving towards that direction. As a parallel example, if you look at areas like customer support, so there was a time where there were call center full of people, right? But then IVR came, so the number of people in the call center reduced, right? Then came some raw bots, chat bots, it further reduced. But with the advancement of NLP, LLMs, and basically the GenAI, right, now we have APIs available from OpenAI and so on, right? So you can train them on your data, and it will pretty much give you very relevant answers. However, sometimes people don't prefer to be basically in touch with a machine, so they want a human touch, right? So there, if an human operator is interacting, right, by the choice of the customer, but human operator may not be that efficient, but the human operator can use that bot as an assistant at the back end. So I was seeing a demo of a very important company which has a very very popular customer support software, right? So they had basically used Copilot APIs, right? Not Copilot, actually Chat GPT APIs, right, from OpenAI. Copilot is based on the same technology, right? So they had basically given that as an assistant. So as a programmer also, you have to look for what are the relevant tools which will basically increase your efficiency and productivity. Because if you don't do, you become irrelevant anyways, right? Because others are learning. So you have to start learning that and use them. And start to explore areas where, human intelligence is still not replaced, right? Okay. And start to, apply and build your skills over there, right? So, and there are immense opportunities, right? So, for example, ML ops is a big area, right? Or even, if you look at prompt engineering, right? How you basically design the right kind of prompts, right? Which would give you the right responses, right? Is another very important area, right? The tools, sophistication, right? And the costing of the tools for different solutions, is different. Whatever new is coming in the marketplace, people who are into data engineering, you have to, keep yourself updated with that, right? Yeah.
A lot of people out here sort of have been working on open source software, so both using it and then contributing the same. So
Yeah.
in fact, our team at this point of time is one of the largest contributors for
Langchains, I saw that. Yeah.
So I just want to understand, and people want to understand, as in how that is going to evolve. Whether the proprietary tools are going to be the flavor, or you think it's the open source that's going to rule, and how important is it for people to keep contributing on open source to build a career for themselves?
Sure. It is, started to evolve the open source. If you look at, places like Hugging Face, right? Now, Hugging Face every day, right? People are contributing their models, their data sets, right? And interestingly, some of them are paid, some of them are free, right? But this is an evolving field. And, uh, you know, um, every tech person, right, should get involved in the open source. There is so much learning, right, in whatever technology, right? Whether it is Java, whether it is, databases, whether it is networking, right? Whether it is AI, right? There is so much out there, right? So, I think each one of us, right, should pick up some areas in open source and contribute. Unfortunately, the contribution from the Indian side of the tech professionals in the open source is not that much, right? But I'll highly encourage, because there is lot of learning. There is lot of learning. Believe me, when I started my startup, and one of the divisions I had was training, right? And in training, I used to encourage people to just go and contribute towards open source. There'll be so much of learning that you will, and then there is such a big community out there, right? And participate in their events. So whatever they are working on, right, they should start to find a parallel in the open source world, right? And learn from there and contribute there. That is because the mental overhead will be the least over there. If you are doing something which is kind of distant from your project, you'll have to put in more effort, so it will be kind of a pressure on you. But if you are doing something which is close to your projects, the pressure would be less. Actually, that's the strategy I would advise. But if you're really interested in something, I think you will find time.
So now this is this new, AI race. It's like trying to, capture this newfound land. Something like, the discovery of America, and everybody from Europe is trying to go and trying to, plant their flag. So now you have some players, right? Now we have Amazon at one place trying to do something. We have Microsoft through OpenAI. They're kind of, getting there. Google is there, which is kind of trying to catch up, right? And Facebook, which is making now Llama 2, they made it open and public, right? So where do you think these players are heading? Whom would you put your money upon?
It's a rapidly evolving field, right? If you look at the operating system war, right? At that point of time when it was all going on, IBM was trying its thing, Mac was trying its thing, right? Nobody knew, right, who's going to be the dominant player. If you look at automobile industry, by the way, right, in the beginning of the 20th century, there were 600 car manufacturers in America. 600 around. Okay. And the concept of basically making assembly line production, right, was not there, because they were custom built cars for everybody, right? And then came a disruption of assembly line production, right? Now yes, today we have players like Microsoft, OpenAI, then Google is there. Facebook is trying. Everybody is trying, right? And everybody is kind of trying to capture the market share. Similar to basically what happened in case of when the cloud computing came. So AWS, had the lead advantage, but then Azure caught up, right? Then Google Cloud, right? Oracle was left behind. Now Oracle has almost around 70 data centers across the world, so they have caught up, right? So this is a very interesting area. Now nobody expected OpenAI to kind of scale up so fast, right? So it came as a surprise to everybody. Okay, right? So which one will be the winner? It's very hard to say, right? But the ones who are able to basically come up with tech which caters to the needs of the different use cases, right? And they are able to capture the market will emerge as dominant player.
Big round of applause to Ganesh and Shorthills.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.